on Colonial Sports Center. Robert Morris men's and women's basketball are both in action tonight against the Green Bay Phoenix in an Horizon League showdown. And football concluded their season a few weeks ago against Campbell. See how they capped off their first full season in the Big South. And RMU track and field coach Brian Delsite is in studio to discuss the upcoming indoor track and field season. It's time to lace up the sneaks and sprint here on CST.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Colonial Sports Center, back inside the studio. Jack O'Brien is back inside the studio. He was almost locked out for a little bit.
Yes, I am. I've been outside. I've been in the event center. The doors have been locked. I haven't been. My key hasn't worked. I thought I got cut.
Maybe they changed the code. Well, you know, we have a lot of sports for you tonight. Of course, basketball teams in action. And like we said, we have an interview with head track and field coach Brian Delsite. But first, some breaking news from the event center as women's basketball just concluded their game. To take a look at the action here in this one, it was a pretty, a loaded game for Green Bay in the second. As you can see here, RMU started off, 5 straight threes at the start of the game and then just fell apart after that 63-44 final score. But with more on that is Ethan Morrison from the event center. Ethan, take it away.
Thank you, Tyler. Well, yes, Tyler, like you said, Robert Morris, they did come out hot firing in the first quarter. They played very well there, shooting 50% from the field, at 57% from beyond the arc. But after that, they were struggling there, only making, I believe, 4 points in that second quarter compared to their 16 in the first. So a really bad offensive night other than that first quarter. Just some game numbers from this one. Esther Christina led the way for the Colonials, only putting up 8 points. No Colonials reached double figures in this one. As for the Phoenix, Cassie Schultz scored 16 in the winning effort, shooting 6 for 10 from the field and 2 for 3 from beyond the arc. An impressive performance for her. Like I said, overall for the Colonials, they did not shoot the ball very well, shooting 30% from the field, 23% from beyond the arc. So not a good showing after going on a small win streak, beating Morehead State and Canisius last Saturday, so they could not extend that win streak to 3 games. But they will be back in action against Milwaukee at the UPMC Event Center this Saturday at 1 o'clock. Tyler and Jack, back to you.
Thank you, Ethan, for the update on tonight's game. But for now, we're going to hop in the time machine and go back to a time when Robert Morris's women's basketball team got their first win of the season against Detroit Mercy, and we're looking to continue that streak as they travel to Rochester, Michigan to face off against the Oakland Grizzlies. And much like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant, they were looking to overcome the Grizzlies in some challenge of physical strength and prowess. But that would not be the case, as it would be a 65-60 loss. It was a back-and-forth game. The Colonials rode a 9-4 run to end the first half, going up 33-32. But coming out in the second half, Oakland went 6-6 from the line in over the final 4 minutes, and a strong late push by the Grizzlies actually had them come out on top and close out on an 11-4 run to win 65-60. RMU outscored the Grizzlies 44-24 in the 44-16 with points in the paint, and a career night from Aisha Klopfenstein with 15 points, but all of that null and void as the Grizzlies come out on top.
Now they look to keep it rolling and get past that little bit of an aberration here as they moved on to take on, and they came back home to take on the Morehead State Eagles. Now, could the Colonials have a peaceful, easy feeling and go out with a win, or would they have to take it easy and lose against the Eagles? We'll take it back to this game and take it to the event center to start things off here. Colonials and Morehead State. Esther Castillo gets a pass across to Mastral, who hits Amelia and hits a 3 from the outside. Nice little pick and pop there, dishing it around, and nice ball movement as they get the point in there for them. Now, Sol Casher with another long pass across to Alejandra Mastral, who splashes it in there. She's all wet after that one and makes the lead up 22-11. Now getting inside, scoring a point there is Terry Smith for Morehead State. And moving in, again, another outside shot. Mackenzie Amelia hits a deep ball, and they're just flying right now. And moving into the second half, 43-17. Look at that score. That's not wrong. That is corrected. Way downtown. Nina Augustin hits one from deep. Now trying to mount a little bit of a comeback here, Morehead State. It's Julianne McDonald fighting her way to make 50-25. And then here's Natalie Villaflor fighting her way inside, makes the point and scores. And that is that. The Colonials roll through Morehead State 69-45.
After a dominant win over Morehead State, the Colonials were looking to continue their winning ways against the Canisius Golden Griffins and see if they could kind of find that same offensive prowess that they had against the Eagles. And we'll take it to the stat line to see if they did. And they would. They would win 57-43. The Colonials never trailed in this game, and they outscored the Golden Griffins in the paint 22-10. They shot 58% from the free throw line, 47% from three-point, 43% from the field, with their largest lead being 17 points in the fourth quarter. Army leaders were Esther Castillo with 17 points and Kloffenstein again with another double-digit effort by 10 points and 8 rebounds as the Colonials go on a 2-game win streak.
A 2-game win streak is true. They did have, and we just talked about a lot of women's basketball. We'll have some men's basketball when we come back here on Colonial Sports Center.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover their unique mix of all kinds of traits.
Where'd Wiley go? Where's Wiley? Ah, there she is. Paw?
Do you remember being an ancient wolf? Do you ever feel the call of the wild?
You're a renegade cop, and I'm a con woman with nothing to prove. But together, we could really solve this murder.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but all of them are pure love.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. Before we retell you the tales of the past with the men's basketball team, we have an update right now, don't we, Tyler?
That's right. Men's basketball is in action at the Resch Center in Green Bay, Wisconsin. They're taking on, well, Green Bay. And they're currently trailing 62-54 with just over 4 minutes remaining in the second half. A career day as a Colonial for Justin Winston, who's dropped 15 points, and of course double digits for Rasheem Dunn as well in that game. The Colonials try to desperately to get their first win of the season.
Yes, well, you kind of spoil the surprise for the folks at home, but we're going to take you to some highlights now to see if the Colonials could get that first win of the season against Mount St. Mary's, and we'll take you to the highlights to figure that one out. All right, starting off, Colonials looking to get on the board early. It's going to be Mike Green with a pass to Kahliel Spear with a nice drive and score. He would get the and one and complete the three-point play. But the Mount says not so fast as Josh Reeves hits a three, but Kahliel Spear again with another dunk, and the Colonials would go up a good bit. Nice pass from Enoch Cheeks there to set up the dunk. And then the Colonials are firing on all cylinders. It would be Jaron Williams hitting the three. The Colonials would go up 16 at the half. And there's an alley-oop to Kahliel Spears. He had a day against this Mount St. Mary's offense, but the Mount just would not go away, and they mounted a bit of a comeback. This is Mezzi Oforum with the steal and score, throwing it down with authority as Mount St. Mary came back with a 15-0 run. But now late in the game, who is that in the corner? It's DeAndre Thomas to tie the game, and he does with 1 second left. How did he get so wide open? It doesn't matter. This game goes to overtime. And it will be, right here, you'll see Jalen Benjamin penetrating and scoring, putting the Mount up by 5, and they would hang on. They would have 65% in the second half, and the Colonials lose a heartbreaker at the Event Center.
Yeah, after that heartbreaker, they headed to the road to take on the Davidson Wildcats in North Carolina. Let's see how the Colonials fared in the state of North Carolina. And unfortunately, they fell by a score of 88-70. The Wildcats making out like the Joker and the thief in the night in this game as they win and they steal one from the Colonials. Hyunjung Lee, 23 points, 4 assists. The Wildcats, by the way, 53 points dropped in the second half as the defense just fell apart for the Colonials as they fell once again.
Well, finals are coming around the corner, and the time where we get our final grades is coming upon us. And the same is so for athletics. So we decided to get one of our local professors here in Moon Township to give athletic grades out to the men's basketball team. I'll hand it over to Professor Morrison for the rest.
Attention class! Hello, my name is Mr. Morrison, and welcome to my classroom. Now, let's go over the grades from the past 5 RMU men's basketball games. So let's get into it. Okay, first, shooting. That's at a D. Very below average for the start of the season. Look, 41% for the field and 30% shooting from beyond the arc is just not going to cut it, especially in Horizon League play. It's starting to improve slowly, but shot selection is questionable at times, which needs to improve over the course of the next couple of games, especially with league play starting on Thursday. Also, ball control, that is also at a D. Look, 14.2 turnovers per game. That's just not going to cut it. With a 0.9 assist to turnover ratio, that's good for 211th in the country. Look, the team is going to need to be able to pass the ball in the offensive end and be able to control the ball and have possession of the ball in order to score. If not, it's not going to cut it. They're not going to be able to compete in games. Also, rebounding. The team has been punished down low in the paint this year. Even with the additions of guys like Brandon Stone, Jerron Williams, some other big names, Kahliel Spear returning, it's just not been able to cut it. So rebounding also needs to improve. That is also at a D. Also, for defense, oh my gosh, that is an F. Now why? Look, there's no sense of urgency on the defensive end. I see no hustle from this team. And look, they're giving up way too many baskets in transition. This is the Robert Morris men's basketball team. Way too many points in transition. Just need to show some hustle and life on the defensive end. Something that we haven't really seen happen to this Robert Morris team, especially during the Andy Toole era. And you know, it's not all bad. We got a star student this week. It's Kahliel Spear. He averages 14.2 points per game, 8.2 rebounds per game, and is shooting 45% from the field. He is one of the bright spots on this team thus far in the early going of the season. Now, for homework, what can they do leading into their first 2 games in conference play? Look, they need to be more urgent on the offensive and defensive end, and also need to have better body language and, play a more intense style of defense.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison, for that one. Now, it's not too often that teams get to travel to a once-in-a-lifetime venue for a game, and we wanted to make sure you didn't miss this one as RMU basketball traveled to Kentucky and a mecca of college basketball in Rupp Arena. Nathan Brysinger takes a deeper dive into what this meant for the team.
It's one of the most historical college basketball arenas in the country. A building that has been home to a college basketball team that oozes excellence and has one tradition: winning. Rupp Arena sits in downtown Lexington, Kentucky, and is home to the Kentucky Wildcats and has seen its fair share of victories over the decades. In fact, Kentucky's men's basketball has only lost 64 times in the building's existence. For the second time this decade, Andy Toole and the men's basketball team from Robert Morris would set their eyes on the fabled arena and program in hopes of rekindling RMU's winning fortunes back in March of 2013 when they knocked off the defending national champions in Moon Township. Nearly 8 months later, the Colonials were rocked in Lexington. Fast forward 8 years, and these Colonials were hoping to write their own spot in the history books. It was a spectacle to behold during pregame as the fans returned to the arena for the first time since the onset of the pandemic to witness their Kentucky Wildcats.
Number 34,
the Colonials, overlooked, hoped to steal the thunder in this ball game. A team that has been built through the transfer portal looked to take down one of the blue bloods of college basketball. From the tip, it was a sudden and expected onslaught from Kentucky as they overpowered the undersized Colonials, nailing basket after basket. Robert Morris needed and scored some necessary dirty baskets to maintain and reach during the first half. Looking to make adjustments, Andy Toole and the Colonials returned for the second half, but were merely run out of the building. The Wildcats threw down slam after slam after slam. And what was hoped to be a chance to shock the college basketball world turned into another home win for the Wildcats after they dismantled the Colonials 100-60. Head coach Andy Toole tried to find some positives to take away moving forward from this one in Lexington.
I thought there were some signs of life from Matt Mayers. I thought Mattia gave us some decent minutes because we got to continue to kind of build our depth and our rotation and trying to figure out what combinations of guys can go out on the floor and contribute in a positive way. It was nice to see Justin make a couple threes there to start the second half, which is something that we wanted to do in the beginning of the game.
Ultimately, the Colonials looked to steal another game from Kentucky just as they did back in 2013. But this time, their dreams came up 41 points short. For Colonial Sports Center, I'm Nathan Brysinger.
Thank you for that inside look, Nate. And, well, the player you saw in that video, Farron Flavors Jr., is actually no longer with the program. We broke that news story, and if you want to see more like that and more about the men's basketball team, make sure you head to colonialsportsnetwork.com or follow us on Twitter at RMU_CSN or on our new Instagram at Colonial Sports Network for all the latest in Colonials athletics as we take a look at pretty much every team on campus and we break down all of them.
All right, well, don't go anywhere because coming up next, we're going to be talking how football ended their season. We'll have Mr. Colby Sherwin in to break that down. You're not going to want to miss it here on Colonial Sports Center.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years and I got my third child who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off. I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Colonial Sports Center. A few weeks ago, the football team looked to close their season out against the Campbell Camels in their last Big South matchup of the season and also their last game of the season. Could the Colonials get over the hump and defeat the Camels? We'll take it to the highlights to see just what happened. All right, Colonials knocking on the door late in the first quarter. Campbell's going to jump offside. It's a free play, but it won't matter. George Martin finds James Westry over the middle. Great throw by Martin. Quick throw. The slant, it's always there, and the Colonials go up 10-0. But it's going to be Dylan Burton Ernie rolling to his right to Dante Crow, and much like the bird he shares a name with, he flies into the end zone, and the Camels find life at 10-7. They would eventually score field goal, but then Colonials on the goal line again, and George R.R. Martin says, I know Game of Thrones Season 8 was bad, let me make it up to you, and runs a touchdown, and the Colonials go up 17-10. But Ernie, again, sits back in the pocket, airs it out, and that's going to be a touchdown thrown to Jalen Kelsey, 27 yards. Great ball by Ernie. And the game is tied at 17 in overtime. Nick Biscaglia's kick is good. The Colonials take the lead, but the Camels have a chance to tie and extend the game. Will they make it? The kick is up. It is no good. It is wide left as the Colonials defeat the Camels and finish their season on a high note. Yep, that's me. Well, to break down the game more so, we're going to toss it over to Colby Sherwin and Tyler Gallo to get the ins and outs of this Colonial season. Gentlemen?
Thank you for that, Jack. And that's right, I'm here with Colby Sherwin, one of our chief football analysts. And Colby, what an ending to that last game. I mean, the kicker, was really struggling coming in, and he misses 2 of 3 kicks to send it to overtime, and then misses that big kick in overtime, Colby. How was that for you, seeing the game?
Definitely was a great game. Jack was talking about George Martin played well, and Ernie as well for Campbell played very well. But what wasn't talked about in that highlight was with about a minute to go in the fourth quarter, George Martin threw an interception, which put Campbell about the 43-yard line for the Colonials. They were able to pull out the win and get the stop, send it to overtime. We saw Nick Bisceglia on his senior day kick the game-winning field goal. The defense got off the field. Great game in front of nearly 2,000 fans. And George Martin, in his final game as a Colonial, 19 for 30, 173 yards, and a touchdown and a pick. You saw that beautiful touchdown throw by Martin. You couldn't place it any better to James Westry. It was a great game all around.
That's right, and like you said, speaking of 2,000, George Martin passed for 2,000 yards this season, the first Colonial to do so since Eric Kwalinski in 2008. Now, the team, led by their strong receiving core, went 4-6 this season. I mean, is there any positive, or how many positives are there to take away from the season after their first full year in the Big South?
I think there are a couple positives. We saw them lose only one game at home. George Martin played fantastic. We talked about it early on in the year. Could he hit the 2,000 mark? We saw him hit the 2,000 mark. Elijah Jackson played well, though he didn't hit 1,000 yards rushing. It happens. The defense, though inconsistent, was able to get off the field. We've seen a couple of times. Hampton, they needed to stop. They got it. They got it against Campbell. Kennesaw State, we won't talk about that game at all. It happened. I made a field goal. That's all you really need to know about that game. It was just kind of a back-and-forth season. I thought there was a couple games that definitely could have went better. We see the stat leaders here, 4-6, 3-5 in conference play. About 20 points a game. They definitely played well at times, but there were times where this team was too inconsistent.
That's right. And speaking of inconsistency, one place where they were really consistent, 7-1 in their last 8 and 4-1 this season, was at Joe Walton Stadium. How do you think this happened for the team?
They had some great home cooking this year and really saw them play well at Joe Walton Stadium. Only one loss to the number 8 ranked Kennesaw State Owls, so you can't really blame them for that. Kennesaw State with their option offense was just too much to handle for the Colonial defense. That is actually played right into what is their weakness, which is tackling in the run game is abysmal, but we won't get into that. Definitely was able to see some positives throughout the year. Running game was all right. We saw that is the strength of this team was the receiving core. They played very well all year. George Martin continued to play well. Coaching needs to improve, but at home, they were really good.
That's right. And speaking of George Martin, he's on his way out. He's going to be the first time that he's not the starter for the season next year. Now, my question for you is, who do you think the next starter for RMU is going to be? Is it going to be Spencer Rattler?
Definitely aren't going to get Spencer Rattler here. I got 2 for you in-house. Watch out for Anthony Chickett. He played a couple times this year. And Cade Finnegan is transferring from Boise State, dominated the Mountain West. If they can get him here, they'd do pretty good.
Definitely interesting to see who the next quarterback is going to be. But thank you, Colby, for sitting down with me or standing up with me today here on Colonial Sports Center. Now we're going to send it over to someone who is actually sitting down, John Hanna, who is with head track and field coach Brian Delsite. John, take it away.
Thank you, Tyler and Colby, and thank you for coming on today, Coach.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
So you were the assistant coach here, actually, and grad student from 1994 to 96. How have you seen the Robert Morris track and field and cross-country programs, grow and develop in almost 30 years since you've last been here?
They've changed tremendously. First and foremost, the university just changed a great deal. When I actually went here, it was called Robert Morris College, believe it or not. It wasn't even a university yet. And the facilities have changed dramatically. The Island Sports Complex didn't exist, so we competed. We had an indoor track in the old Sewell Center. That was before the UPMC Event Center. And we also we used to practice at Moon High School, believe it or not, in the after. So things have changed dramatically, almost entirely for the better. The university's grown tremendously, and the athletic programs have grown tremendously over the last 30 years.
And even in your 1.5 years you've been here so far, there's been multiple changes, including just the introduction of the men's cross-country team. How important has it been from you to sort of build up that program, and how has that difficulty been?
It's been challenging. It's really exciting. We haven't had a men's cross-country team here in a long time. When I was back here as a GA years ago, we had a full men's and women's cross-country indoor and outdoor programs on both sides. The men's programs were cut years back. Chris King and the athletics administration decided when I got this position that we were going to bring the men's cross-country program back. We didn't know until November last year that we were going to do so. We kind of did. We worked as hard as we could to recruit and put together a roster of about 10 guys. We're really working hard at recruiting again now. So it's a process, but it's really important. It's really important to have that back. It's really important to build on the legacies of the previous, and it really helps our women's program. It really helps to have the men's team in concert with the women's team in cross country. So we'll get there. It's just going to take some time to build it back up after not having it for so many years.
And you mentioned that recruiting aspect. Now, I ran track in high school. I don't know how good I was at it in your eyes, but I actually found some clips of me running if you just wanted to sort of give your feedback on them. So here's me in I believe this was the 200 and outdoor, out in the outside lane. Any thoughts on the form there?
Not bad. I'd like to maybe get a little more muscle on your legs, and that would be good. But no, actually not too bad. You got some good arm drive and some good turnover there. So. And
then here in the hurdles, slightly just outside my distance, 400.
So it's a 400 hurdler here.
Yeah.
So you're from New York, I heard. So that's the 400 hurdles.
Yes.
Yeah, you could have run. You could have run for us.
Well,
You've got some eligibility.
Actually, I still have 4 years of eligibility,
yeah.
So
if you want to come out for cross country and stay here, and you come out for cross country next year, we'll take you.
And then speaking of up next, you guys actually start tomorrow for indoor at the YSU Icebreaker. Are there any sort of meets you're looking forward to, looking at that schedule coming forward?
Yeah, I mean, we've put together a very competitive schedule for the team. It's up there right now. This first meet's just like the reason for a meet in December is basically because the non-cross country kids, the sprinters, hurlers, jumpers, multis, throwers, have all been basically just running against each other all fall, since September we started practicing and training. So they're just itching to get out there and get to see some outside competition, get in a competitive situation. I kind of refer to it as a rust buster. It's just kind of see where you're at when the fall. And then when we get back after holiday break, then we'll really get into the nuts and bolts of our season. We have a meet at Penn State, which is a great meet. We also have one we're going to travel up to Bucknell and we're going to get some good teams from that part, and then we'll also have a couple more trips out in Ohio with Kent and Youngstown, where we'll see a lot of the Midwestern teams and some other teams from the Horizon League. So it's a very competitive schedule. We kind of ramped it up this year a little bit to get some competitive meets in and hopefully get us ready for the Horizon League Championships in the end of February.
All right, well, thank you very much, Coach Delsite, and good luck tomorrow.
Sure.
And when we come back from break, Tyler's going to give us an update on the men's basketball game against Green Bay, and Tyler and Jack are going to give us their games to watch. So don't go anywhere here on Colonial Sports Center.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Freedom. It's at the core of who we are. The freedom to live without fear, to jog where we please, to wear a hoodie. The freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
Welcome back here to Colonial Sports Center. Now, before we get into the games we're going to be watching, a game that we just concluded watching happened as men's basketball just wrapped up their first Horizon League action against Green Bay, and unfortunately they fell by a score of 70-58. A season-high 17 points for Rasheed Dunn, who found his scoring touch in this game, and 16 for Justin Wilson was not enough as the team fell by 12 points in this one out in Wisconsin. Now, Jack, there's all these games going on this weekend, teams playing similar teams as well. What game are you looking at?
What I'm really looking at is women's basketball against Milwaukee. This is a team that's been having a lot of offensive scoring, and today you saw it for the most part in the early stages. They jumped out to a huge lead. I think it was 5 threes to start the game. A little bit of a defensive collapse, though. I want to see if they can bounce back, if they can come back and see the effort we saw against Morehead State and Canisius.
Yeah, that's right, Jack, and I'm sticking with Milwaukee as well as men's basketball takes on Milwaukee this weekend for their second action, hoping to bounce back from tonight. Players to watch, Jerron Williams, who's looked pretty good for this team coming off the bench, despite Kahliel Spear having the more scoring touch. And then on the other side, I'm looking at Patrick Baldwin Jr., but he's been dealing with an ankle issue, so if it's not him, their dynamic duo, the other guy, Dre Golson, also averaging 15 points and 4.5 rebounds. That's the game I'm looking at. RMU beat them last year, so let's see how they do in this one.
Yeah. You know what? One thing that we talking about football, when you have your first season in the Big South, looking to make a statement, I think going 3-4 your first full season in the Big South, it's not a bad start. And we always talked about, making an impact initially, and I think it's a great starting place for this program.
Well, that's right, Jack, and they were right in the thick of things in the playoff race right until November, and that's exactly where you want to be. Yeah, while it was a long shot for them to make it with Kennesaw State and Monmouth, the monsters, in front of them, it was still a good season nonetheless, and there's a lot to be proud of this team going forward, and it's in the right hands of Bernard Clark.
No, yeah, more or less what you talked about with Colby, it's, who's going to fill in these positions with people leaving, possible transfers. The future is nonetheless bright, though. Very, very bright, I'd say.
That's right, definitely bright as the team, looks to bounce back. Next season, they'll be having a bunch of different games and some new opponents. So, taking on Miami of Ohio for their FCS game. So, looking forward to that one. But that's all we have for you here tonight on Colonial Sports Center. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here. And for Jack O'Brien, I've been Tyler Gallo. For everyone upstairs and down here, it's been a good week, and we'll see you next time here on Colonial Sports Center when we come back Thursday of next week.